So Mark just joined the Far East Council starting this month, and he's actually not even on the ground yet, but will be joining us here via web chat until he's able to get to Okinawa. So Mark, would you like to start by, I guess, first leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then providing maybe a quick introduction about yourself?
I would. Thank you, Zach. If everybody could please salute the flag wherever you're currently located at and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice for all. Thank you. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to be part of this council-wide roundtable this evening. This idea came on very short notice, and we reacted in a very prompt way to organize ourselves to be able to provide an opportunity to visit about scouting at home in the Far East Council. A little bit about myself. I have been working for the Boy Scouts of America for the last 20 years. I started my career in southern Utah, and then I took an opportunity to move with the Boy Scouts to Las Vegas, Nevada, where I had a tremendous experience for 7 years, working in lots of different assignments. And then I took the opportunity to move to Wyoming, where I served as scout executive. So I had the chance to be in charge of scouting in the state of Wyoming for a number of years. And then the last 8 years, I've worked for the national office. Much of that time, I worked as the director for Latter-day Saint relationships. And it was a tremendous opportunity to work with the partnership between the Boy Scouts of America and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints up until that partnership ended at the beginning of 2020. And then during the last 18 months of that time, I worked as a membership growth coach. So I had the chance to work with about 10 councils in the Western region and helping them with their membership growth. So it's been a wonderful career. I'm married. I have 10 children. My two oldest boys are Eagle Scouts, and most of my other children are involved in scouting in one way or another. And we are very excited to not only serve the Far East Council, but also to move to Okinawa so that my children can become, again, a part of of various packs and troops. So with that, I'll turn the time back over to you, Zach. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Mark. So now that you've met Mark, want to give you a quick background all about the way we plan to run tonight's session. So we'd like to start by giving you maybe a few minutes to introduce some of the national, regional, and council resources that we've been working on for the Scouting at Home initiative that you've probably seen some resources on, both from the national site and from our own council. And that includes the National Campout and other FEC programs that we're working on. After that, we'd like to go through and highlight for around 20 minutes some of the best practices we've already seen throughout Asia on how to react to this. I know obviously all of you have at some point some experience already with remote scouting and scouting at home. And we've had a few scouters that have really stood out and above, and we'd like to share some of their best practices with you guys, so something you can learn. Feel free to ask them questions at that time. And then the last 20 minutes, we'd like to facilitate a sort of guided Q&A session. So really giving you a chance to maybe ask some of the burning questions you might have to our new Scout Executive about the impact that the remote scouting program will have on your units. And also it's a good chance to share some practices as well at that time. So with that, we should probably be able to go a few minutes over, but I understand that people are busy and scouting should not take too much of your life that you also have to live. So we'll try to end at around 9 p.m. Japanese time. So I guess to start, I actually want to turn it back to you, Mark. If you could probably start by introducing a little bit of the national programs, and then we can go through a discussion of some of the things we have planned here in the Far East Council. And I heard a request from a few people on the chat. If you could turn on your video, I think people would love the opportunity to see you while you're speaking.
Yes, Zach, thank you very much. I think I just turned on my video. Hopefully, nope. There we go. Hopefully you can see me now. I have my video on. This is an exciting opportunity that we have to participate in as a council. That is the National Camp In. We don't have a lot of information about the Camp In yet, but it is slowly coming. Much of the Camp In will happen during the middle of the night for those of us in Asia. It starts at 10 a.m. Central Time, and it goes throughout the day. So like I said, most of the time we'll be sleeping, but when we wake up in the morning in Asia, they'll be coming close to their campfire. So that will be a fun opportunity for us to wake up to an exciting campfire in the United States. There are some resources available, and I'm going to try to share my screen. And why I do that, let me mention that the conference call is full. We have reached capacity, so I'm assuming there are a number of scouters out there a little frustrated with us because they're not able to join the actual conference. We recognize that. We knew that we had a limited capacity tonight, so we are recording it, and we will share this recording just as soon as it's over. And we are looking into some additional technology to provide the opportunity for more to join us in the future. So let me share my screen here. This is the official Scouting at Home website for our council. I'd like to thank Justin Wentworth, our council communications chair, who put this together for us. There's a lot of great resources on here that will help you as you navigate your way through this COVID-19 scouting at home dynamic that we're all experiencing right now. You can see that we have a lot of information there. You can click on any one of those links. Once you click on those links, it takes you to this next portion of the site, which gives you a lot more information, and then additional places that you can click to learn more. Some information about tonight's event, the merit badge classes that are coming up. We'll talk about that here in a little bit later tonight. Scouting Wire's got some things, just a lot of great resources available for you to be able to work with your families and with your units in this stay-at-home scouting environment. Well, in addition to that, we've got the nationwide campout, which I just mentioned. And if you click right here, you can get to their Facebook page. Let me do it this way. Start by clicking here on National Camp In, and then that takes us to this part of our site. You can click here to join the Facebook Live. We have a little feature there that will convert it to your time zone, so you can actually see in your time zone when things will happen. Or you can click here to learn more about it as well. And this is the National Camp In website. And every day I've been going on here, there's been new stuff added. One new feature that was added today was the opportunity to sign up and actually receive information. So you can type in your name there and your email, and within seconds you'll receive a response from them saying that you have registered and that you will be receiving additional information. There's a form of the schedule. There's no times yet, but it tells you some of the things that will be happening. I noticed that there'll be a 5K benefit run. There's going to be an Olympian that will speak sometime during the day. Lots of advancement opportunities. Some good STEM stuff. A Q&A with some Hollywood folks. And there'll even be a visit from a United States NASA astronaut. So that will certainly be fun. And then, of course, the campfire, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. And then here towards the bottom, you can see that we're 4 days out for this exciting event. So I hope that all of you on the phone tonight or on the call will share this information with your units, because this is one way for us to fully engage in scouting while staying at home in this kind of stay-at-home mode, as they would say. So with that, I'll turn the time back over to Zach. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So that gives a good understanding of, I think, the programs that are going on here at the national level. Obviously, things are changing, and we encourage you to look for the national site for updates here, as well as checking our own FEC website for the offerings here. Now, I want to quickly introduce, I believe I saw Paul Atkins on the line. Paul has been doing a little bit of work here, working on offering virtual merit badges. And I was wondering if, Paul, you could maybe provide a kind of 5-minute overview of the program that we've been working on here. I know you've put a lot of work in there, and I've been on the calls too. So maybe just introduce that to everyone here. It'd be helpful.
Sure. Hi, this is Paul in Singapore. So I know all of the units have been working together with their volunteers to support online using the Zoom facility, remote merit badge counseling and opportunities for scouts to advance. So the concept is hardly new to any of us at this stage, but I'm sure all of us have found that it doesn't really scale well. Oftentimes we'll find 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or 6 scouts who want to work on one merit badge. We have volunteers who might support the delivery of a particular merit badge for 4 sessions, and then they'll only have 1 or 2 scouts show up on the Zoom link. As units, it's something that we've just had to do in order to support the scouts, and I know that we're committed to that. But I was hoping that on a council basis, on a council-wide basis, there might be a way for us to take advantage of some of the best practices in the U.S. or resources that are already developed in the U.S. And I came across a solution which was developed by Central Florida Council with a third-party content development expert. The beauty of their solution is it scales almost beyond belief. They can take 999 registrations. They've already delivered merit badge sessions to over 18,000 individual sessions. So imagine 18,000 merit badges that they processed. It's a fantastic system as well because everything's been recorded. So they effectively have a movie database, as you might think about it, of the 1-hour sessions that make up a total of 4 for each one of the merit badges that they deliver. They already have a library of about 17 merit badges that they can support. They have web page architecture, which has all of the homework assignments that the scouts have to complete as part of viewing a session. If a scout misses the time of a particular session delivery, they can log on at a different hour. Of course, everyone's schedules change. So if a family has a conflict and a scout misses a session in our current delivery format, in this alternative from Central Florida Council, they'll be able to effectively do the makeup according to their own time schedule. They can submit all of their answers and the content required to complete a merit badge subsequent to these various sessions. So it's a really fantastic repository which provides us effectively with a turnkey solution. Mark's goal is to have it up and running next week. I'm going to try and make that my goal too, Mark, but no promises. In any case, we have a fantastic resource in Florida who's committed to work with us. The content is already there. I'll be working with Justin to enable it on this side. It's a great solution. I hope we do have it up next week. So watch this space. We'll be communicating further in the near term. And again, this is something that is going to be available council-wide and at all of the hours that are convenient to the units and the unit leaders. That's it for me.
Thank you for the update there, Paul. That's very helpful. And everyone kind of on the call, I really think it would be helpful if you want to send through some questions on this section. That'd be very helpful, and then we can pause, see if there's any ones that we want to address. And I see that there was one question from, I think, Troop 110 or something like that in Okinawa, the guts. Paul, how did the Scouts actually show or demo the skills? Would you be able to answer that question?
Okay, there are some merit badges, cooking, for example, which they cannot complete using this facility. So some of the merit badges are going to require, small boat sailing is obviously another great example of something that they're not going to do online. But there are merit badges where maybe 40, 50, as much as 60% of the content might be something that they can effectively complete in terms of theory online, and then the actual demonstration, the shotgun shooting, the small boat sailing, and the cooking skills is something that they would do at home. They could video it and then share that with their unit leaders in Far East Council and their respective units. And then the Scoutmasters can sign off on that residual 20 to 30 or 40%, whatever it is that makes up that demonstration component of the specific merit badge.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that, Paul. So I think that covers it. I'm not seeing any more questions on the, oh, sorry, we have one more question from Iwakuni is sort of how that might work with blue cards and getting that to the Scoutmasters.
Yeah, okay, great question. So this system, as do most platforms in the United States, relies upon registration through the Black Pug system. So when the Scout signs up, they're going to pay $5 per merit badge US. They'll put in all of their details into that registration system, Black Pug, which I know at Far East Council we implemented last year, but it's ubiquitous in the US. So by way of Black Pug, they're going to have the blue card produced digitally, as well as with the JSON export file, which you can import into Scoutbook using the feature extension.
Thanks for providing that quick explanation there. Well, for the purpose of time, I want to kind of keep this discussion moving along. And so the last thing to present from the national, regional, and council side of things is we are planning to do kind of similar discussions as this with each of the districts. And so maybe you've gotten some emails from your scouting colleagues. I sure have during this session. Unfortunately, our current license for GoToMeeting is limited to 51 participants. But we do want to bring this sort of discussion and ability to meet with the Scout executive to all the districts. So we are working with each of the district chairmen to be setting a discussion portion of the next district committee meeting. So I believe for Asia South, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're trying to do that in 2 days from now on the 30th. And then we have them scheduled either East, South, and Central as well. So we look forward, if some of your scouting colleagues were not able to make it for tonight's meeting due to the limitations of technology, to speak to them at the upcoming district roundtables. So with that, I want to move over to sort of highlighting some of the best practices throughout Asia. And this is sort of based off of some of the discussions that have, of course, been happening in various scouting circles. And we have a few people that we'd like to highlight in terms of doing something that we found to be quite innovative that was worth sharing with other units. And after that, we'd like to have some kind of Q&A session with each of them. So during these presentations, if you have any questions, as you're doing now, if you can just send them over the chat, we can pause after to kind of provide an opportunity to answer your questions. So as a first sort of example of some scouting practices, I was wondering if I could have Lisa Krause from the Singapore, both PAC and Troop. She's done some great jobs here with the distance learning plan. And Lisa, I was wondering if you could give us a quick kind of summary of what you guys are doing down there and what others can learn from it.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Right. Thank you. I feel humbled that you are listing us as one of the best practices, because we all are, just doing our best over here, and we're just trying to adapt to our circumstances. We live in a country, Singapore, which has been giving more and more restrictions since the month of February. And so we've had to kind of roll along with it and create situations based off of the restrictions as they happened. So we've been at this since about February, and I work very closely with Paul, who just spoke. I think I speak first for the PAC. What we did was we created a distance learning plan, and the main author of this was really Mindy Bush. Mindy put a lot of work into putting the distance learning plan together that would work at the PAC level as well as the troop level, because we represent PAC 3010, Troop 10, which is for the boys, and Troop 1010, which is for the girls. And we wanted to create a consistency amongst the groups. We were in touch with the charter organization with what things they could provide for us or not, depending on their restrictions, because they're a school. And we set up we started out with a 30-day challenge, which was shared by the Heart of America Council, trying to promote scouting at home with our Cub Scout group. We also set up opportunities for our PAC to make donations for the food bank in Singapore. We have also had a den who led a successful e-meeting, and the reason they felt successful is that they sent the requirements for the Cubs to complete beforehand. So the meeting was nice and short, but it was an opportunity for all for those Cubs to share together and to kind of see each other, because we've all been in quarantine for quite a while now. We've had to move our events such as the Blue and Gold and the Pinewood Derby. We've had to modify them to an online format. Obviously, it's not going to be at the same level, but we're going to host it by den. And the Cubs are just going to have to decorate their cars and just, not really race them, but kind of share them with everyone. For the summer, we're still planning our summer adventure based on the restrictions if Singapore allows us to. Some troubles we've had along the way. We did have one den who stopped participating altogether despite all of our efforts. We're worried about re-registration coming up. We're worried how that's going to affect our group. And not everyone is always as willing to participate, as we all know, that happens, but despite all of our efforts. And we feel that one thing that other leaders could take away is that the distance learning plan that we put together is comprehensive, and it really covers every area that we could think of. And the communication is key. We communicated frequently with our charter organization, amongst ourselves as leaders, and with the parents. So anytime we had an update, we sent out that information. So we kept it as transparent and as consistent as possible. Now at the troop level with Troop 10, and Paul can add also for Troop 1010, again, the distance learning plan, keeping in touch. We've also had the Scoutmaster has been running weekly troop meetings since February. He's been running them online together with the senior patrol leader. We've run 8 merit badge sessions, which have been conducted online with our merit badge counselors, and we have plans for 4 more in May. We set up the opportunities for the Scouts to donate food items to the food bank. We also leverage as much responsibility to the assistant Scoutmasters, so they would be responsible for their own patrols. The assistant Scoutmaster sent individual emails to each Scout to provide more direct motivation to those Scouts who were not doing as much. And we have conducted some board of reviews for the Scouts that have advanced in their ranks. Some of the troubles at the Scout level, at the troop level, is that it's difficult sometimes for the Scouts to participate in appropriate protocol when online. And so early on, we found that to be one of our greatest challenges. And setting expectations from the beginning is absolutely key. It's also challenging, as Paul mentioned earlier, to get more merit badge counselors online. So we really like this idea of, that Paul is taking from the Florida Council. Monitoring advancement is logistically more challenging, obviously, with the bigger troop. And some of the parents we find still are not connected to Scout Book despite all of our efforts. What the other units can learn, set expectations. If you're going online from day one, you're going to have to have very strong netiquette skills, pay attention, don't make silly faces, don't make fun of people in the chat. Even if your plan isn't perfect, you can always improve. Allow your senior patrol leader to lead, but your senior patrol leader is going to need a lot of support. And this does require a bit more of time commitment, depending on the week, obviously, more at the beginning. And now that we're more on a roll, we find that things are just flowing better. So that's it for me.
Thanks so much for sharing, Lisa. I think this is really interesting, the way you talked about kind of often communicating and making sure you're, getting something done and then improving upon that. I guess digging in quickly, I'm assuming a lot of people have the same question. Could you share with us a few of the details of the sort of distance learning plan from the PAC and the troop level? What is included in there?
Sure. So for the PAC level, It starts with sort of the premise of why we're doing this. It's just a basic introduction starts off saying the health and safety of our scouts and their families has always been our highest priority. So just kind of setting the stage for families to understand why we're doing this. We also set up a timeline. So, this is what February looks like, this is what March looks like, and so on. And then we would update based on the restrictions that Singapore was imposing, because Singapore really, at the beginning, started with restrictions that affected us as a pack, not necessarily the whole country, but we were definitely limited, for example, that we couldn't do camping. So we would adjust those on a monthly basis. We also talked about the mandatory rank requirements and what we could acquire, because if the scout is going to be doing an elective and we need to acquire that elective, we need enough time, for example, to source that. We talked about different opportunities, for example, the cyber chip badge that needs to be filled annually. Needing to do also the pamphlet so the parents could read that. So part of the requirements, making sure that everyone stays on track. We also talked about a Scout Strong badge that we wanted our whole pack to participate in, and these are the examples. We also created, we're following the Scouting from Home pin, and so we talked to the pack on how they could acquire that. And then something that I really liked was the Heart of America Council, their challenge, their 30-day challenge. They did, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but they've done such an amazing job of really outlining it very easily for everyone to kind of see how they can follow all the rank advancement opportunities. At the troop level, let me just open that up. The distance learning plan at the troop level, of course, is more based off of what the troop requires. And again, it starts with your introduction, but it also starts with saying that it says, just as our troops are scout-led, this distance learning plan is scout-led and begins with the scout choosing to work on rank advancement and merit badges independently. And so we talked about the process that the scout should go through, from the proposing of their merit badge and approval of their merit badge, to scout-led with parent supervision, to the completion and approval. We talked about youth protection always. We talked about how to stay active in the troop, how to do merit badge work online. We give links, their cyber chip badge, their online rank advancement, community service opportunities, how to do a board of review, and how to do, for example, taking advantage of all these platforms in many parts of the world that offer, for example, virtual tours of places, how they could access some of these things. So we actually would go through some of these things and then put it together, and we've put together the document for everyone. How to have an online merit badge meeting, the tutorial for the troop meetings, what family camping looks like, what accommodations they could make at home. When hiking was an opportunity, right now it's not so much in Singapore, but that restriction only started a couple weeks ago. So at that time, they could still do hiking with their parents. What does it look at the scout rank? What does it look like at the tenderfoot rank, and so on? Any at-home aquatics programs. So, and then there's a whole appendix with all kinds of links attached to that. So it's also quite comprehensive, and I know that Mindy also shared that with the council.
Thanks so much, Lisa, and certainly all that are listening, we will do our best, because I do believe that Melinda did share it with all of us. So we'll definitely put it such that people can find and access this distance learning plan that you guys have done a great job putting together. So thank you very much for sharing. Sort of in the interest of time, I don't see any questions in the chat. So let's move on to sort of a second example of, I think there's a question from Marcella. Marcella, do you actually want to just state your question for Lisa?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing it. Everything sounds extremely impressive. And Troop 1, we're trying to implement a little bit more on communication by using MailChimp, and we revamped our website, and we're trying to building up into how to communicate with our scouts. And in that, we have followed, some of our scouts actually did use the resource of the Central Florida Council, and they have been doing some merit badges there. And also Hong Kong has done some virtual merit badges for our own troop here. But my question refers basically to CyberChip. Can you please talk to us a little bit more about how you're implementing it there? Are you making it a requirement or not? In Hong Kong, the committee voted on our last monthly meeting on following the National Capital Area Council procedure for their online scouting, and they actually make it a requirement prior to participating in any virtual activity. And so I would like to know if you have any comments on that or any suggestions that you would have for us.
I'm also a teacher, so I think any training that you do on cyber chip safety is always best practice. What we wound up doing with one of the troops is, because we were already hosting the meetings online, we hosted the cyber chip videos. We watched them, we shared the screen, and then we had conversations with the troop. And so that kind of satisfied it at that level. Before that, when we were still meeting, we would do this by patrol. But at that point, I agree. We have a duty of care to teach the children how to, and teach the scouts how to behave online and what things are appropriate and not. And a lot of it is also through modeling. What do we feel is acceptable in our online meetings, and what do we talk to later? For example, there was a moment where one scout was making a comment to another scout on the chat bar, and so separately we addressed that with the scout and the parent. We didn't want to, in the moment we had to kind of ask him to stop, but then later we had to follow up with why that wasn't appropriate, and then it didn't happen again. So if your committee decides that needs to be something that is a requirement before you go online, I think I would also say that it goes along with best practice, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. It absolutely does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for your question. So now we want to turn over to another sort of best practice, and this is actually coming from a different scouting organization entirely. One of our vice presidents for the council, Harry Long, is actually quite involved in the Scouts Australia, and I was hoping that he could share maybe 1 or 2 minutes on some of the things that he has learned from his interactions with units down there, and serving as, I believe you're highly involved there. So Harry, could you provide us some lessons that you've learned from your experience down in Australia?
Thank you, Zach. Can everyone hear me? I'm a long way away.
Yes, we can hear you, Harry.
Okay. I was asked by both Mark and Zach if I could share something called the Q Store, and it's a virtual Q Store, basically created by our branch, Reed Council. When I say branch, as a consequence of requests from leaders who were finding in the modern world of scouting, the bureaucracy of scouting becoming somewhat overwhelming in terms of time commitment. And so we created what we hope is a one-stop shop that assists leaders in directing them to find the information in a time-friendly way. So our Q Store is set up. It's for members of our scouting community in South Australia specifically. However, I have sent links to both Mark and I think maybe Zach as well, and we're happy to share this so that you can have a look at it, and then subsequent to this meeting, ask me or Chris Wise, our admin guru, any questions you might have. So for instance, some of the things that it covers that, and again, it's just double click and you're there in the Q Store. And so under administration, you can create your own surveys. And CareMonkey is the modem that we're using there. Finance questions, which come up in groups quite regularly in terms of how to do best practice financially. A forms library. I don't know what your feelings are, but the forms are a constant nuisance for leaders in my state. Insurance questions, which are absolutely important. What is and what isn't covered. Also some things that are specific to Australian scouting, including My Scout, which gives program ideas, policies and procedures, property questions, Q Store suggestions. So if you have something you'd like to see added to the Q Store, you can send us a message and we'll act upon that. Volunteer screening, the process that we go through, WHS, which is certainly important as well. Organizationally, things like the Adult Recognition Awards, you can tap into that, fill in an application for someone that you think is worthy of an Adult Recognition Award, and that'll be considered by the group. No, okay. I thought that might have been a question. Districts, group support committee, life membership nominations, positions that are vacant. So if there's a position at branch level or district level, you might like to apply to become a district commissioner or a branch commissioner. The job specifications and job descriptions are there. Scout Outdoor Center, we run businesses that turn over about $45 million a year in our state. And so our members are quite interested in knowing how our businesses are going. So we have a scout shop, but we also have our recycling center. We're the largest recycling depot in South Australia, and that generates millions of dollars of income for us each year. And Woodhouse, which is our scout camp, also is a big money spinner for us because we also lease that out to outdoor families and organizations. Under outdoor adventure, if you went to that site, you'd see air activities, alpine activities, archery, boating, bushwalking, caving, four-wheel driving, motorsport, paddling, rock climbing, sub-aqua, swimming, basic aquatics, and life saving. Under program, you could look at age ranges.
Hey, Harry, thank you for sharing the resources. And I think we had a question on chat. If you could share the link to this one. I was wondering maybe you could narrow it down, sort of kind of how the troops are adapting to this virtual scouting program here in Australia, in your interactions with them, just quickly. We'd like to probably end this session around, or end this portion of the session around 2 minutes to allow some time for Q&A.
Okay, fine. So what I'd ask Mark and Zach to do is to send you the link to this Q store, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me. This is also where we have our Scouting at Home program. And so we're trying to support leaders so that they can feel that they can run a virtual program that's meeting most, if not all, of the needs of scouts who have to stay at home. So for instance, we just celebrated Anzac Day, which is a very big holiday and has a lot of meaning in Australia. So we presented them, our scouts and leaders, with program ideas for Anzac Day. Branch or council updates on the virus, peak awards, and how particularly our Queen Scout candidates and Baden Powell award candidates can continue their journey without falling too far behind, how to best run online meetings, support that branch can provide, along with weekly activities which are added to continuously. So that gives you some examples. So some of the challenges that I've been listening to tonight in terms of challenges of running this Scouting from Home program are the same challenges that organizations in scouting are having all over the world. So certainly your experiences are shared by your counterparts in Australia, and dare I suggest it, probably with Japanese scouts, Singaporean scouts, Hong Kong scouts, and so on and so forth. So perhaps I'll end it there unless there's some questions.
Thanks so much for sharing, Harry. And I think in the interest of time, I think Mark posted the chat, and we'll share more of the resources as you said after this meeting with folks. We want to turn now for the last 20 minutes here to sort of a live Q&A session for really Mark and some of the other council leaders that are on here. So there's a few questions that we received prior to the session that we do want to take some time to answer. And I think one of those was in relationship to the summer camps, and another was in relationship to sort of the Scout Score operation. So Mark, maybe we can start there. And then if other folks have questions, I think the best thing would be if you could type your question in the chat, just to let me know you have it, and then you can say your question and Mark can answer it from there. If that works with everyone, I think that'll be an efficient way. So turn it over to Mark, if you can talk a little about the summer camps and Scout Shop impacts.
Okay, thank you, Zach. So let me turn my camera back on so that you can see my beautiful home office. And of course, I want you to know that I'm supporting the official Far East Council baseball cap and the official Far East Council polo. So I am an official scouter in the Far East Council. Yes, there are significant impacts to our camping operation this summer. Camp Dragon was canceled earlier this year in April, and we had to cancel our Camp Tiger in Korea, and we had to postpone our high adventure camp in Nepal. Nepal will still happen, but it will be in 2021. We're still hopeful that we can still conduct our camp in Camp Tama in the mainland Japan later part of July, but that decision will be made in a little bit later. So we recognize that this is a little, not a little bit, but this is very disappointing for our scouts. But we want them to recognize that there's still a lot of ways that they can have great scouting experiences at home, like we've been discussing tonight. There's a lot of merit badges that they can still earn. And I would like to take this opportunity to throw in just a little personal experience. Even though I'm not physically in the Far East Council territory, we are still in the same sort of lockdown situation that the rest of the world is in. And we've been this way for several weeks now. And my family, we are very avid scouters. We run a Boy Scout troop and a Cub Scout pack with about 50 youth in each program. And a couple of weeks ago, we finished our first virtual campout, which was a huge success. We had a lot of families that just simply camped in their backyards. We sent out some promotional material ahead of time for both the pack and the troop in terms of activities and advancement things that the kids could be participating in, as well as some campfire ideas. So we had a great experience, and numerous families had a great experience as well. But more importantly, my son, who is the assistant senior patrol leader in the troop, they've been having regular PLC meetings, and they've been holding virtual Scoutmasters conferences, as well as virtual board of reviews, which are approved by National through September 1st of 2020. So just recently, my son, who happens to be named Baden, yes, after Baden Powell, that shows you the depth of our scouting commitment, he passed his life board of review in a virtual setting. So we're really proud of him and grateful that we were able to participate and utilize that kind of technology. Of course, as parents, we weren't directly involved in the board of review, but we were on the peripheral supporting him as he interacted with his leaders and those on the board of review through technology. So we do recognize a lot of impact to the way we have traditionally done scouting, but we're confident that this is still going to provide a lot of new opportunities for our scouts to advance and to work on wonderful scouting adventures. As far as scout shops go, we recognize that this has been a bit of a challenge, and I've been working closely with our staff at the scout shops to develop ways to still send out packages and to be supportive of you. And I know that there's a bit of a lag right now, but we're trying to work through that. And I'm confident, and I want to be very clear on this point, I'm very confident that moving forward, the Far East Council Scout Shop will be the place that you want to go to purchase your scouting materials. We want to provide that kind of customer service to all of you, regardless of what country you're in. We want to be your go-to place. And if you have any specific feedback for me in terms of what we can do to accomplish that goal, I would welcome that. If you have some frustrations, if you feel like you've been mistreated, if we didn't send you the right materials, let me know. We'll make it right, I promise. Because we trust our customers, and we want to make this scout shop something that is useful for each of you, not just because of COVID-19, but because this is the right thing for us to do as a council. We want to support those who support us so greatly and provide such wonderful scouting programs. So with that, Zach, I'll turn it back over to you for the next question.
Thanks. I think Amy from Troop 77, you had an interesting question about online camping.
Good evening. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So I think when I wrote in earlier, I was asking for clarification on the virtual camping. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so, and we, both myself and my advancement chair had been in contact with Mark already on this one. We were curious because National's direction was not super clear on how to count virtual camping towards requirements, both for rank advancement and for the merit badge. And the direction that we got back was that it does count, with the exception for Order of the Arrow, which makes sense. So we're going to proceed with our patrols and trying to set up some virtual camping, looking for ideas from other troops that may have already done this on how to execute. You know, how did you guys actually coordinate that? Did you guys allow take videos? Did the scouts take videos and or zoom in at certain points during the camp-in, or turn in pictures of when they cooked along with camping? How did you guys actually execute that?
Okay, Amy, please rephrase your question.
So how did you actually execute the virtual camp-ins when you had the scouts participating in an event, whether it be for rank advancement or a merit badge requirement? Did they send pictures? Did they Zoom and chat virtually?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. They had some specific assignments, and if they wanted to participate, they had to complete those assignments. And then later in the day, they came back together on a Zoom platform and returned and reported. Some of the boys, some of the scouts did make video recordings and sent those to their leaders. So they used several different methods to be able to verify that the scouts had actually accomplished what was requested during the virtual campaign.
Copy that. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Amy. I'm sure others have opinions here, and I'd love to hear them in going forward. But I do want to highlight one question that I think we got a few minutes ago from Drew. And I guess this is a question probably for you, Mark. Could you provide sort of a description of how this is changing some of the requirements for merit badges, where some prerequisites make it very clear that social distancing is difficult to do, such as life-saving or something of that sort?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer everybody wants, but the answer is some of the merit badges simply aren't available to do in a virtual environment. Hiking merit badge, swimming merit badge, life-saving merit badge, cycling merit badge. You know, as much as we want to be able to do everything virtually, some things it's not an option. So we'll have to wait until these types of restrictions are lifted to be able to complete those requirements.
Roger that. So this time,
thank you for the information. The main concern I had was that I thought I heard one person state that we'll accomplish life-saving or something like that and have scoutmasters sign off on it. It's not just a social distancing. It just goes back to some people are qualified to do some things. And I'm hoping that it's not a carte blanche just because we're socially distancing to, okay, we'll let other people do the qualification even though they're not qualified to do something. That was my larger concern.
Yeah, so that's a great point. The youth are still required to complete all the requirements. So we can't say because it's a virtual environment that we're going to, you know, let some of these things slide. That would be a disservice to our scouts, and it would be a disservice to our communities. But we do need to identify as many opportunities as possible to still advance during a shutdown like we're experiencing. Frankly, this is unprecedented. None of us that are alive today have ever experienced anything like this. And this is a worldwide pandemic. It's not just something that's happening in Asia. This is everywhere. And we're feeling the impacts everywhere. Just as a quick aside, I have a daughter right now that's serving a church mission, and she's living in the country of Hungary. And it's very interesting to kind of hear her perspective from a kind of a European perspective of what's going on. And it's no different than what we're experiencing here in the United States and what I hear everybody experiencing throughout Asia. But we do want to continue to set the standard high that rank advancements and merit badge requirements do need to be completed as they're outlined, with some variation. And those variations have been made clear through national websites. For example, the camping that we talked about a little bit ago, some of those opportunities will be available, but it's not, the rules haven't changed forever. Those rules have changed through September 1st of 2020, and then we'll go back to the traditional way of doing some of those specific camping things. So anyways, this is a very broad topic. I hope that we've been able to address the concerns today. If there's still questions regarding the merit badges and advancements, just send those through the chat or email myself or Zach or other council leaders directly. So thank you. Back to you, Zach.
Thanks, Mark. So right now I actually don't see any active key questions from Mark in the chat. So maybe I'll regret doing this, but if anyone has any additional points, we have maybe another few minutes here that we reserved tonight. We'd love to answer your questions, especially if you think they're going to be useful for other people to hear the answer to.
So Zach, another question came in on the chat. I'll just tackle that here real quickly. It says, how does camping occur for scouts without a yard to pitch a camp? I'm going to go out on a limb here because I can and I want to. That's an issue for the PLC to decide under the direction of their scoutmaster. I have no idea, but the PLC can solve it. We've got to empower our youth. The Patrol Leaders Council in Scouting, sometimes we just give them a title and say, yeah, you guys are in charge and you need to meet on a regular basis, but we as adults are going to figure things out. Let's reverse that during this this environment, and let's empower that PLC to come up with some creative solutions to some of these big challenges. National has given us a little bit of leeway on the camping requirements through September 1st of 2020, and I'm confident that a PLC under the direction of their scoutmaster can come up with some creative ways for those who can't pitch a tent to still have a camping experience. I don't have the answer. I'm not claiming I do, but I'm confident that our patrol leaders councils in your communities can come up with a way to make that work. There's a question about black pug. I'm still learning about it myself. Justin Wentworth, are you on the line still? And can you address this? The question is, can you explain a bit more about black pug? That's all the question is. So Justin, are you on?
Yes, I am. Black pug, for most intents and purposes, is really kind of our events website that's integrated within the Far East Council website, and most links to scouting events through the council are through Black Pug, or if you look at the web address, it'll say 247scouting.org. You can find links to it right on our front page of the Far East Council website and throughout the Far East Council website, as the calendar, all the events on the calendar are through that. And yeah, can't think of anything else to say about that, but if people have specific questions, I'd be willing to entertain anything.
Yeah, and we'll see if other questions come in, but if you do have questions that we can't answer today, you can always email myself or my office staff. Sam Hefner on my staff handles the registration side of anything regarding our website, and the technology that supports that is Black Pug. And we've had some great success with that. We've only been using it for, I think, 6 or 8 months, but it seems to be working quite well. Another question came in, does the council have any idea when a decision will be made about our crew to Philmont? Yes, they told us that by May 1st, they'll give us the information of whether or not Philmont will happen this summer. So let's wait for that date. Once that date comes, then we'll decide what direction we'll go as a council, because I know that several leaders have already backed out of Philmont because of travel restrictions in their individual countries. So we're going to wait till May 1st, and then we'll be able to talk a little bit more intelligently about that. Question, merit badge pamphlets found online, can we use those? Absolutely. Several of the merit badges are available. the pamphlets are available online, as well as the Scouting Handbook. They've recently had some articles in Scouting Wire about that, and I think also Brian on Scouting has blogged about some of the digital assets in terms of handbooks and whatnot. Okay, somebody is asking us about Friends of Scouting. Yes, we can talk about Friends of Scouting. I could talk for an hour about Friends of Scouting. So Michael, do you have a specific question or something you have on mind about Friends of Scouting? There was a comment that came into the chat. Can we talk a bit about Friends of Scouting? I'm not sure exactly where he wants me to go with that, but just relate to the email received. Okay, and I'm not sure which email you received. So Friends of Scouting is critical, and Friends of Scouting is an opportunity for our scouting friends, whether you're leaders, current leaders, parents, or just interested community individuals. It's a way for you to be able to financially support the operation of scouting. We don't have the ability to have scouting in our communities just because we want to. Scouting is a brand, it's a franchise. We have to purchase the rights to be able to have scouting available for our youth. And that there's obviously a cost to that, and Friends of Scouting is one way where we as a community are able to financially support that. The finances or the money that we donate to Friends of Scouting comes right back to us in numerous ways. Comes back to us in camping opportunities, training opportunities, advancement opportunities, opportunities for our children to participate in character development adventures, all sorts of leadership opportunities. So all of the wonderful things that scouting provides our communities, Friends of Scouting is one of the ways that we are able to financially bring that back to our youth and to those whom we serve. So I'm not sure if I addressed the question there, but I'm obviously a strong proponent of Friends of Scouting, and I hope that everybody online right now and everyone who hears this in the future will think seriously about making a generous contribution to Friends of Scouting every year. And I do the same, and I always have been a very strong financial supporter of Friends of Scouting. So thank you for that question. Zach, I don't want to dominate this, so if you have any comments that you want to make, please chime in.
No, I think you've done a great job so far, and I know we want to keep this to an hour-long session. I know you already are spending so much of your times devoted to scouting, so just wanted to reiterate a few points from the beginning of our discussion. First, the national campaign. This is going to be occurring this upcoming weekend, so please look at the resources online at National to figure out more about this. Secondly, our council resources. As Mark showed you guys at the beginning of this meeting, we are creating an entire council webpage just devoted to the resources available for you. So we'll be putting a lot of the resources both discussed today as well as others onto this site, including the kind of council merit badge offering that we're working with our partner in Central Florida Council for, which should be going live hopefully next week. And then third, we'll be having a similar conversation as this one with each of your districts. So please, if there are other topics that you'd like to discuss, or you'd like to discuss in a different way, in a more intimate setting, more close to your geography, there will be an opportunity for that, and we encourage you to please try and attend those sessions. We're working on the tech here, so hopefully more than just 51 people can attend these upcoming discussions, and we really do want to just thank everyone here as a scouting leader. You know, this has been a challenge I don't think anyone could have seen coming, and it's forcing all of us to be creative, to work together. And I think hopefully it's teaching all of us how important the scouting program is, importing the skills and the values that we do teach in scouting. So with that, thank you so much. And I'll let Mark, if you have any other closing words, please take the floor.
I do. Thank you so much. I love scouting. I love the impact scouting had on my own life. I love the impact that I observe scouting having on my children's lives. And I love the impact that I see it having on youth all around the world. There's nothing like scouting. And whatever we can do to encourage great scouting to happen in people's homes right now is well worth our efforts. And I know that the time will come when things will get back to some sort of a normal state and we'll be able to fellowship again together face to face. But until that time, let's do all we can to ensure that we have strong scouting happening in the homes and in the communities of those whom we serve. So thank you all for joining tonight. We look forward to meeting with you individually in your separate districts. And then as we move forward, we certainly want to support district roundtables and district meetings. And possibly from time to time, we'll do another council-wide one like we've done tonight. But more importantly, we want to support what's happening in the local district level. So thank you all so much for joining tonight. Back to you, Zach.
All right, great. Thank you all. And there's one final question. We will be trying to post this hopefully on the council site and distribute this as such. So there'll hopefully be a link that you guys can share with other scouters that weren't able to make it tonight. But with that, I think this is the end of the session. So feel free to drop off whenever.
Thank you all.